Hey, you guys. All right. So, sorry, my camera is kind of a mess right now. All right. So, who's in here? Who we got? How are we doing? How are you feeling? You guys freaking out? We're here, or like the night before. You're here. Seriously though, how are you feeling? Stressed? Ready for this to be over? You feeling awesome? Maybe you're like, I got this. Oh no. My computer's frozen, if you can hear me. Sorry. Hang on a second. Froze. Okay. Oh my God, seriously? This just keeps, I don't know why this keeps freezing. It's not that many of you in here. All right, so anxious, awesome, moderate. Okay, so for tonight, got a 4 in the practice exam. That's awesome. That's good. So I don't have any like specific plan for tonight. I want to like leave things open for you guys and just adapt to whatever it is you need from me. Okay, so it looks like DBQ, we can do DBQ. Let me just ask you a question. Why do you need a 5? Why not a 4? Just out of curiosity. Perfectionist. All right, I get it. Just so you know, most colleges will accept a 4 just as much as they accept a 5. So, grand scheme of things, don't stress yourself out based on that. That's fine. Set a goal, work hard for sure. I don't want to like put a damper on that. I just don't want you to get too stressed out on something that, you know. Most IVs only take 5s. Oh, that's good to know. Okay. All right. So DBQ. So we can do DBQ. So I'll open up a, let me open up a document and we will do DBQ. So let me ask you then, in terms of, so let me just like put this out there. Do you want to just sort of ask questions and I can just answer them? Do you want me to like run through an actual like, here's how I would attack the DBQ one more time? Run through. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's do that. All right. Let me just open up a document. So since my computer just like crashed, I gotta deal with that. It's like, you know, it's like one of those things. It's like, what is it? Murphy's Law. Like when things can't go wrong, they go wrong. So now that we're here the night before, I'm having so much computer trouble. So much more so than I have before. Okay. All right. All right, we're going to get there. We're going to do this. Okay, I'm getting there. Share window. Boom. Okay. You're feeling like foreign alliances. You know, it's really funny. I like tweeted out and asked if any teachers had any predictions, and I got 2 teachers that said their predictions were Jacksonian democracy. Who knows? I mean, none of us know, right? Like, it's not like these teachers know something that I don't. But it's kind of weird that two different people predicted Jacksonian democracy. Yeah, for your sakes, I'm hoping that it's 20th century, just because 20th century seems to be a little bit easier. Last year was colonial era, I believe. So, okay, so let's run through this. You guys specifically mentioned questions about context, questions about when you're writing a DBQ, do you advise we should use SPICE after you're done analyzing the documents? And then outside evidence. All right, let me look at, can you see my screen still? Okay, so let's see. Let's just pick one. So the problem with this test right now is that, oh, seriously, is that there just aren't a lot of examples out there that are aligned to the new test. So they're really the only options really like this. Really, there's one option that's like from College Board aligned to the new exam, and it's this one about colonial times. Have you guys done this one yet? This is, where is it? It's this one here. The change in ideas about American independence. Sort of done it in class. No. Got this in class. Okay, so is this a good one for right now? Or is this like a waste of your time? This one's good? Okay, all right, so let's just use this one. If you've already done it, that's okay. I'm just gonna try to like stay bigger picture anyways, so that it's less about this specific DBQ and more just about general, how do you do it? If you want a copy of this right now, like if you want to look at the documents, literally just Google, or I can just, here's the documents if you want them. Okay, so just to like set you guys up again, the steps that I would take to do the DBQ, the very first thing that you need to do is read and understand the prompt and make sure you know what like skill it's asking about. Right, and by skill I mean causation, CCOT, comparison. And that's like the key. So you want to like take about a minute to do that, to really make sure you know it. Double check yourself. The next thing that I would do is you can sort of like, and I've told some of you guys do this before, rewrite the question to make it a little bit easier, to make it more simple, to like simplify it. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of go through all the steps and then we'll apply it to this other one. The third thing I would do is to actually read through the documents, specifically asking yourself, how does this document answer the prompt? Okay, read through all 7 docs, looking only for how that document answers the prompt. Once you've got a nice list, then you'll figure out some sort of grouping, group the docs to create 2 to 3 clear arguments that answers the prompt. And then I would write your thesis on the like scrap paper of the documents, because you can write on those. So even before you start actually writing in your blue book, write your thesis before you do anything else, because once you have a good thesis, context is a lot easier. Everything is a lot easier because you have a clear picture of where you're going to go with this, and where like what your essay is actually going to be about. So I would write your thesis, write like, you know, your thesis on just like on the documents, like / like scrap paper, and then you're actually going to start writing the essay. So it's like all of this stuff is is going to take you the first 15 minutes, you know? This is like first 15 minutes, do all of this. And I know you might be saying that's a long time to spend when I only have 60 minutes to write, but the more clear you are on your thesis and just like in general where all the documents should go, the better your entire essay is going to be. Okay. I don't need to bold all this anymore. Okay, so then you're actually going to start writing, and you're going to start with your intro, right? So your introduction will have your context, which will be, yeah, I can share this document. Let me just do it right now. Okay, so your context, as Anika answered before, should be about 4 to 5 sentences to get a really strong context. And just ask yourself, you know, what are those, like, you know, what's going on? What's the backdrop to this? Like, really think about your thesis and what the like topic is of your thesis, and then think about the like previously on, you know, if your thesis is about the Revolutionary War, it's like previously on American history before the Revolutionary War. It's that kind of thing. So 4 to 5 sentences. Don't skimp on the context, you know, like I feel like context is one of the easiest points to pick up. So you really want to make sure you get that, like pick that up in the first few sentences that you write. Don't feel like, you know, stressed to like jump into the body paragraphs. Write the context and pick up that point. And then write your thesis, which you've already written. This can be 1 to 2 sentences. And now you're just kind of copying that over. The second paragraph, this should be your complexity paragraph. This can be one of many things. It's kind of your choice of how you want to talk about it. You can do synthesis, or if the prompt is asking about effects, this can be your like counter argument. It's like the opposite skill. And yeah, okay, so synthesis is, and I'll show you an example in this essay. Let me actually write. So synthesis, I know, but because you have AP World History in your brain too, you can use all those things still. You know, the US is like, if you're going to write an essay about the Revolutionary War, you could connect this to the French Revolution and get a point. You know, you can use anything. You can use, just connect like one of the pieces in your thesis, one of the arguments in your thesis to a different time or different place. So that can mean like other US history or outside of US. You know, you don't have to it doesn't have to be US history. You can synthesize across any region. It's basically you just showing like, I understand this argument. I understand this historical development, right? Like why this would happen, because I can prove that it's happened more than once, you know? If you're talking about the causes of the revolution, you're talking about Enlightenment ideas, you know, you're writing a paragraph 2 saying Enlightenment ideas didn't only influence, you know, the American colonists, it also influenced the French Third Estate. It also influenced the slaves in Haiti. It also influenced, you know, Latin America. You could talk about any of those things. The other option you have is the opposite skill. So if the prompt asks for effects, you should write a paragraph about, oh my God, about causes. Okay, so it's basically like that. You've got your choice, and there isn't necessarily one that's better. The best one is the one that you think you can write the best. You know, ultimately you're playing a points game here, and you're just trying to scoop up as many points as you can. And so if you look at the prompt and you're like, yo, I can totally do synthesis for this, I have a great idea for it, Do it. That's your best bet. If you look at the prompt and you're like, I have no idea what I would say for synthesis, go for this one. All right, that would be my suggestion, is just know that you have both of those things. Okay, so at this point, you have 2 paragraphs and 3 points, right? This is a point, this is a point, this is a point. So the goal of your 3rd paragraph should be outside evidence. This is going to be a body paragraph. You're going to do other things in it too. You know, you're going to help yourself earn evidence. You're going to help yourself earn analysis. But the goal of this paragraph is for the reader to read it and be like, they definitely have outside evidence. You want them to, by the time they've read through 3 of your paragraphs, they've checked off 4 points for you. Okay, so body paragraph, this will be, the way that you'll organize it is topic sentence, just like introduce like this one argument, one thing from your thesis, and then you're going to give evidence from a document to support that. Do not use quotes. Quotes are a huge waste of your time, okay? So when I say use evidence from a document, you just are describing the document, paraphrasing. You know, if it's an image, you're just kind of explaining this is what the, you know, this is an image of a teapot. This is what it says. If it's a document, you just are explaining what it is. You're not quoting from it. The only time that you should quote is if it's like 2 to 3 words that you just want to pull from that document, then fine. But you really are going to waste time if you quote. So give evidence from the document, and then as soon as you do that, so let's say 1 to 2 sentences is evidence from the document, 1 sentence topic, then this will be 1 sentence of sourcing. This is HIP, okay? So you've got options again, your choice. Your options are historical context, intended audience, purpose, and POV. So for historical context, it's like, it's the same thing as this. It's the same thing as contextualization. It's just of the document specifically. Previously on for the document. Intended audience is like, who would have read this / seen this? Who is it for? Purpose would be, why was it for them? What did they want from the reader? POV would be, explain the bias of the author. So, you know, we all have bias. So if it's gender, class, race, job, I don't know, politics, religion, age, any characteristic about that person that has an effect on what they think. Okay. So you've got give evidence from the document, source it. Then you usually in your body paragraph, you'll have 2 to 3 documents. And then you just kind of repeat this. Evidence from another doc, source the doc. And so let's say there's only 2 documents in here, then at the end, then you give outside evidence. And you can actually attach the outside evidence to a document or to the argument. Like there's a lot of places here. So if you're arguing that the feminist movement was because of World War II or something like that, then you could just include something like Rosie the Riveter as outside evidence. This is like connected to the document or to the argument. But basically with outside evidence, it can't appear in any document. So even if you're giving outside evidence for one document, if there's another document, like if you were talking about Rosie the Riveter and there was another document that was Rosie the Riveter, that can't count as outside evidence. It has to be something else. For the context or even the HIP, should we point a little arrow titling it context? You don't need to. You don't need to label anything. You can write your topic sentences like that. You can just straight up say the purpose of this document is blank. But the best thing that you should do is to don't use the word document. Yeah. You want to like think more about this source information, you know? So instead of saying the purpose of document 3, it's more of like Sam Adams would have written this because he wants to like rally up support for American independence. Exactly, right? The Quaker, you know, the Quaker leaders would have said this because if you use the word document, students tend to not analyze it appropriately. So cite it. So definitely cite it as Doc 3. That's okay. That's totally fine. But you don't want to, if you like think of the document too much as its own entity, it can hurt your analysis, you know, like instead of saying the context of the document, you would say, you know, in 1775, this is where things were. You know, in 1772, the revolution had just begun and Sam Adams was trying to show people that it was worth it. I don't know, keep people invested. So you want to just sort of think of your sourcing as more related to the actual person, the actual event, the actual thing. You know, College Board has labeled them documents, but they're beyond that. So again, if you say the purpose of document 3 is blank, you're not going to lose points. I've just seen stronger writing come from not using the word document. So this is pretty much how your body paragraph, let's see, you can't repeat info from contextualization as outside evidence though, right? Right, so you can't double dip. So if you wrote in your context about Rosie the Riveter, you would want something else. You almost have to think of it as like, if they used to do this, that point used to be called additional document. And so you almost think of it as like, in this body paragraph, in this thing that I'm arguing, you know, here's two documents that are supporting that. What's another document that could have been in this DBQ, but has kind of been left out? And again, don't think of it as a document. Think of it as like a key term that a document could have been about, you know? And that's kind of what this is getting at. Outside evidence is like, what is some sort of key term that has been left out of the documents, but is connected to one of the documents or to the argument, you know? So it's like when they make the DBQ, they're purposely leaving something out. The people that make them, they think of, you think through the question, you think through the sources you would want to give students, and then they're going to leave one out. You know, they're going to leave they're going to leave a lot of stuff out, but they totally could have added a document about that. And that's kind of what you're seeing here. Okay. So this is what your body paragraph looks like. And then you're going to do it again. So you'll have at least 2 of them, just like that. If you do outside evidence correctly here, you're going to get the point. That means after 3 paragraphs, you have a 4. So then if you have, let's say you had 2 documents in here, you know, let's say you did HIP correctly twice. That means that in your next body paragraph, doing HIP correctly one more time gets you the point. So now you're at a 5, you know. If there were documents all about the war and war effort and the end of the war talking about the Zimmerman note, could be outside info. Right. If you're talking about World War I. Exactly. So you just have to think about like any key terms that are related to that topic that like they could have had a document about the Zimmerman note, but they didn't. So you can talk about it within that. So you might have 2 body paragraphs like this. You might have 3. It doesn't matter. There's no like wrong, there's no length that you have to have. It's just if you haven't talked about all the documents yet, there's 7 documents, get them all in there. So you could do it in 2 paragraphs. Most likely you'll do it in 3 and you'll have, 2 documents, 2 documents, 3 documents, or some variation of that. But that's normally the way it would go. A conclusion will just be restate your thesis. The only reason for your conclusion is to pick up the thesis point if you didn't already get it. All right. There's literally no other purpose for it. I mean, like the thing to remember here throughout the whole AP essay is you're just playing a game for points. You're not trying to write a beautiful essay. Beautiful essays don't really come out of timed exams. There are beautiful essays that are written for the AP exam, but that's not your goal. Your goal is to pick up as many points as you can, the fastest that you can, So if you set it up like this, 3 paragraphs, you're going to have a 4, and that's going to lead you to get a 3. 1 more paragraph, you're going to have a 5, like if you think about how easy that is now. So if we just kind of look at these documents, just to kind of talk through outside evidence, I think that would be helpful. So here's a teapot made in England between 1766 and 1770, inscribed with No Stamp Act, and on the other, America, Liberty Restored. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is the French and Indian War, right? And maybe you talked about that in your context, so maybe you can't include that. So another thing that you might include if you're thinking about England in this time, or you're thinking just about America at this time, this talks about the Stamp Act. Yeah, but you could bring up the Sons of Liberty. You could bring up any of the other acts, any of them. There's like a million of them. And like we'd have to kind of look through. I don't think any of the other documents talk about the other acts. Yeah, they don't. So for this whatever paragraph you put this document in, I would just bring up another act. Sugar, Townsend, quartering, doesn't matter which one, any one, and just connect that to your argument, and that will give you outside evidence. If you were thinking more about context for this, for context, I would just really think about the years, increasing tensions. You can kind of talk about that. Or you could talk about the point of view would have been salutary neglect is something you could totally bring in as context, as outside evidence, any of those. This one is the Virginia House of Burgesses. So Stamp Act Congress, or is that in the doc? So this one is saying no Stamp Act. So I wouldn't talk about the Stamp Act. That's kind of the evidence that you're using from the document. I would bring in another one just to like really make sure. For Virginia House of Burgesses, you could talk about, think about anything else going on in this time period, any other thing, what's another example of American governance through salutary neglect, right? What is it like not Virginia? What's another example of that, of how the U.S. governed itself through salutary neglect before the Revolutionary War? Yeah, Mayflower Compact. There you go. You could bring that up as another example, as outside evidence. This is an example of that. So you only have to do it. You only have to do outside evidence correctly once, but it's in your best interest to do it in each body paragraph, because that gives you 3 chances to get it correct. You know, like if you only try it once and it's wrong, then you lose the point. So you want to try that 3 times. Sourcing, you know, you have to get sourcing correctly 3 times. So you want to try it 6 or 7. You want to do it for as many documents as you can. And then, you know, hopefully 3 of them are correct. For this one, for sourcing, you could talk about, you know, I'd have to like read this. Sourcing is HIP. That's what you're doing. You're analyzing the like bias of the document. So you're really talking about, I don't know, this, I have to like read this one. Let me try to find an easier one. This one, like with Sam Adams, you know, this is a good one. Actually, you know what? They've already done all of the work for us. Here's all the answers. Extension of voting right. Yeah. Okay, so if we look at that teapot one, you could talk about, so when it says situation here, it's talking about the context of the document. You could talk about importance of growing American trade with commerce with Britain. British manufacturers capitalized on / profited from Stamp Act crisis. There you go. Consumers in Britain and colonies, that would have been the audience. Yeah, so mercantilism is this like, is kind of this here, is part of the context of that image. In terms of the Virginia House of Burgesses one, concepts in the resolve spread to other colonies, which adopted similar resolutions, longstanding autonomy of colonial legislators, right? The audience of that would have been other British North American colonial assemblies, the British Crown, and Parliament. That's who would have read it. Sam Adams, when you think about his point of view, he's a political leader, he's a patriot, he's a member of the Sons of Liberty. All of those things would influence what he's saying. The purpose of the document is to, he's using Enlightenment ideas, but he's specifically trying to gain support for colonial independence. The context of that time period is the concept of republicanism spreading. That's just like the fact that there's so much transatlantic exchange in the 18th century leads to exchanging of concepts and ideas like the Enlightenment. That's pretty much what they're talking about here. The Enlightenment as context. Okay, so like let's look at some of the other documents. So this one is Quaker leaders about, I don't know exactly what it says. So like this one would have been, the Quaker leaders are encouraging other Quakers not to join against the British government. And this is specifically talking about the divine right of kings. So the context would have been that Quakers are pacifists. That's something you could have used to prove this. The purpose of it would have been thinking more about pacifist principles in order to prevent war, right? So the Quakers don't want war. Could you talk about how they stole the Quaker land because they didn't participate? As outside evidence, sure. And that's something you could add on to that, right? Like, the only thing is you just want to think broadly about the prompt. The prompt is asking about the goals of the American Revolution, not necessarily the effects of how people felt about it. So you just have to connect that. You know, like the thing is with outside evidence is you can really talk about whatever you want as long as you can connect it. There's a lot of things you can do. So like they even have a list here. So like for this specific one, look at this list. So examples of additional evidence might include the following with elaboration. So yeah, so Essie, you only have to do outside evidence correctly once, but you should try it more than one time. You know, like you will get the point if you do it correctly one time. So, but it's worth it to try it in each body paragraph so you give yourself more chances. So like, look at this huge list here. It's literally just a list of key terms, you know, like these are just all, you know, think about that like huge key term chart we made. It's like they did the same thing. They're just trying to think of every possible event, person, document, thing, anything that you can connect. So they've got Articles of Confederation, some of the battles, Boston Massacre, Tea Party, Daughters of Liberty, Declaration of Independence, Continental Congress, Enlightenment. There's a bunch of people in here: Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, Alexander Hamilton, any of these, right? Because they're just other things. And, you know, any one of these things could have been the topic of one of the documents, and that would have just been fine. But for this one, you know, it just, they don't have it. So this is really the like focus. And then if you see here, this is how they got the point. These ones earned the point for outside evidence. Another example that shows Americans becoming more committed to self-government. So right there, that paragraph, wherever this student put these few sentences, was in a paragraph that was arguing that Americans became more committed to self-governance over time, right? That wasn't the original goal, that happened over time. And that, so they're saying, you know, another example that shows this, you know, this is like another, it's a document that they could have used, was the Boston Tea Party, you know, and then they just explain it, which involved a group of Americans, that's it. And then they earned the point. This one, beyond the documents, see, like you can use you can use that. That's fine. Beyond the documents, the Olive Branch Petition was proposed by the colonies, So, you know, you can see both of these examples here. They're just bringing up another key term, and they're just explaining it. So they chose Olive Branch, they chose Boston Tea Party. The ones in here that don't get the point, are using it incorrectly. So this one is incorrect. Salutary neglect is misunderstood, right? So the only reason why people lose outside evidence points is because they're not actually explaining anything, right? Britain's handing of monopoly to the Dutch East India Company on tea to the colonists culminated in the events of the Boston Tea Party. Okay, well, what about that is connected to your argument? That's kind of where they're losing the point. So it's just, you know, you can see here, this phrase right here is key because it's just showing like, I'm arguing this thing. Here's another way that I can prove my point. And I would have done it with a document about it, but, you know, y'all didn't give me a document about it, so I'm going to prove my point anyways. All right. How are we doing? Are we feeling better about the DBQ? What exactly was the Olive Branch Petition? It was last-ditch effort to spare change without the expense of war. The petition affirmed the colony's loyalty to the king while also suggesting reforms. So it was just like a one last shot of like, we want these changes, but we don't want... It's a good example of how like the U.S. Americans didn't want revolution at first. They would have been totally fine staying a colony as long as they had extra right. They had representation. They were treated fairly. Probably. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with Crittenden's Compromise, but probably. Let's see. I wonder what they use here in terms of complexity. Oh, excuse me. What are they talking about here? Here, look. This is synthesis for War of 1812. There were a variety of groups who had different opinions on the war for independence. There was patriots who favored independence, loyalists, blah, blah, blah. This split is similar to the War of 1812 opinions of war. There was the group who believed we should defend ourselves from the British Navy, also the war hawks and expansionists who favored the War of 1812. There was also the group known as the Federalists who opposed the war. They even started the Hartford Convention in opposition to the war. So they're getting complexity here because they're saying, hey, this thing that I'm arguing about how there's differing opinions about the war, this happens another time in U.S. history. The first of compromise proposals submitted in hopes to prevent. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you could totally use that. All right. Any other questions, you guys, on other DBQ stuff, other parts of the essay, other essays? Could you also go over LEQ? Yeah. So with LEQ, it's a lot. It's really the same thing, you know. It's like, let me just bring up. How could you still make the essay flow from contextualization to arguing main points? You mean like in the body paragraph? So let me actually pull up. Yeah. So in this document, there are sample essays. So if you look at this one, they talk about, I'm trying to find an example of context that they use. This person has really nice handwriting. Sam Adams. So, I mean, in terms of your essay, in the body paragraph, if you're using context to source the document, you're just sort of trying to explain what else is going on in this time period to make sense of it, you know? Like any document has context to it, you know, like something was happening at that time in that place. Like think about like, you know, in the future when it's Trump's tweets that are on the DBQ, it's going to be like thinking about oh, okay. Okay, so I'll get off that topic. So when you connect it to a completely different time, so don't this is where like as a teacher, it kind of like hurts me to say this, but like don't worry about the flow of your essay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, you just don't, it's just not important. So let me find an example. So, you know, the thing is, you can have, let me just show you an example of one that I wrote so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. This is AP World. Just aim for all the points. Yeah, exactly. Don't worry about, oh my God, it's so hard to find things. I have so much stuff. Okay, so if you look at here. So, come on. This is an LEQ that I wrote. It's world history, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So it's like I went through this. This one was about the factors for imperial decline. So I've got my context, I've got my thesis, and then I went for synthesis. And it's just like, yeah, it is out of place and it would look a lot better in the conclusion, but I'm trying to get all the points as fast as I can. So just, you can kind of start your synthesis with like, this is not the only time in American history or in history that blank happened, right? Because in this was arguing that the empires fell because of disease. So this is not the only time in history that the population decreased because of disease. And then I talk about the Incas and the Aztecs. And then I bring it back around to why disease led to the fall of both of everyone I'm talking about here, of classical empires and of Incas and the Aztecs. And, you know, it might seem out of place, but who cares? But you can kind of see like in, you know, even if I use this to show you what the LEQ looks like, you know, this is really like, this is how you should organize it. It's like you've got every body paragraph. You can see here, this, especially like every single sentence is helping me earn a point, or it's specifically earning me the points. You know, like I don't have any sentences here that are extra. every body paragraph is set up. Topic sentence, evidence, analysis, evidence, analysis. Topic sentence, evidence, analysis. In terms of LEQ, same, it's just the same stuff. It's a lot of the same points too. The only points that are different, no, it's all the same. It's like thesis is the same, context is the same, evidence, you're just giving your own evidence rather than using evidence from a document. And then here you're, instead of sourcing, you're explaining your evidence. You've got complexity, and then this is one that's different, using historical reasoning. It just means that you know what the prompt is asking for. So like in my sample essay, I would earn that point because each of my body paragraphs are focused around causes. Cause, cause, cause. And that's earning me the point. All right. Any other questions? How are we feeling? I'm not even sure how many of you guys are still in here. 7? Okay. Pretty good. So, all right. So I want to like wrap things up, okay? And give you just, I don't know if you're on the East Coast or the West Coast, what time it is where you are, but here's the thing. Central, you should not study all that much more. Even though not even reviewing, honestly, the only thing I would suggest to do at this point, I know you're like panicking. I know you're feeling like I should review a lot more, but really, the information's in your head already. It's there. You know a lot more than you think you might know. Spend a few minutes, a little bit of time, as soon as this ends, review the rubrics. That's key. Just make sure you really know the rubric points, that you have those memorized, because that is not on the exam. On the exam, in the directions, they kind of tell you the rubric points, but they're not going to like explicitly say them to you. So if you were going to study and memorize anything tonight, memorize the rubrics. Other than that, on the East Coast, it's 8:48. Just stop. Just be done. Go and take a break. Do something relaxing for you, whatever that is. Play a video game, watch a stupid show, read a book, draw, listen to music. Doesn't matter. It's like, do whatever you want. It's just like, take a break. Let your brain relax. Let yourself relax. You've been working super hard. You're going to do how you're going to do. And there's not much tonight that's going to change that, and like, this is the big thing that I would always tell my students too. It's just, you are your worst enemy. And the only thing that's going to hold you back tomorrow is your stress, And so that's why tonight, just relax. Get yourself set up for tomorrow morning, put together a little snack and your water bottle and pencils, whatever you're going to bring with you, and just relax. Just hang out. Stop thinking about U.S. history. Stop panicking about the test. Look over the rubrics, and then that's it. Do you hate that advice? Or any of you gonna actually follow that? Because it's like, I feel like I tell people that, and then they just kind of like, they look at me and they're like, what do you mean don't study? It's the night before of the test. It's just like, you got, like, the 7 of you that are in here have been coming to live reviews. You've been studying. You've been writing practice essays. You sent them to me. You've been caring about this test for so long that all of that hard work is going to pay off. Like, it is. You're going to open up the test tomorrow and you're going to be like, oh, I got this. I know the answer to this. But you're going to be okay. And so look over the rubrics. Just make sure you're comfortable with the outline, the general like process of the exam. And then do something fun. Do something that's just like just do your favorite thing and just do that, take a break and then go to bed. Yeah. Yeah. Just go to bed, watch some stupid, I don't know. Honestly, like, I've been rewatching episodes of old Jersey Shore. I mean, it's like mind-numbingly dumb, but like it's kind of nice at night, you know? It's just like, yeah, Parks and Rec, whatever. Watch a stupid show, play some games. It doesn't matter. It's just like find something that will just take your mind off of this, because if you go to bed relaxed, calm, you'll wake up better, you'll feel refreshed, you know? And that's it. It's done. I mean, no matter what, you've only got a few more hours of being a part of APUSH. And then, yeah, you're going to take the test, and then you're going to have your day. You have your weekend, and maybe you have other AP tests to worry about, but, you know, APUSH will be done, and that's it. So, yeah, so then enjoy your weekend. So, like, no matter what, you're going to get through it. You're going to figure it out. Taking a break. Mahar, tell your mom that I told you this. I told you this. Like, you know, take a break tonight. Don't do AP Calc practice tonight. Maybe spend a little bit of time, set a timer if you need to do some homework, if you have to do something, but go to bed early, eat something, just take a break. And you can tell your parents that I told you that a teacher told you do not study tonight. It's not worth it. It'll confuse you more than anything. Okay. All right. Any last questions of anything else that you want? Anything else that you're just like lingering questions? I can't imagine there's much more. But if there's anything else, you know, no pressure. If something comes up, if you're in the middle of your Parks and Rec marathon and all of a sudden this random question about the short answer questions come to you, just email me, okay? And that's fine. You can just email me and I'll respond. I'm gonna be kind of working all night. And other than that, you guys, this is it. I mean, that's it. Can I share? Yeah, I just shared it. I just put it in the link. It's in the chat. Let me just grab it again. Can you tell what to write about for historical reasoning in the prompt? What do you mean historical reasoning? In terms of, oh, what skill it's talking about? Can you share the LEQ and the SAQ rubric thing you typed up during the review? Oh, the earlier ones that I did. I'll look for them. Yeah, let me look for them right now. So in terms of the historical reasoning, there's some key words. Actually, let me just find that for you guys right now. There are, let's see, APUSH. Where is this? Practice LEQs. Okay, here is. There's an LEQ one. That was the market revolution one. This is the SAQ one. Let me make sure. You know what? I just realized. Yep. Sorry. Hang on. Let me just share it with both of you, all of you. Hang on. Change anyone with the link. Okay. Okay. The SAQ one is shared, and the LEQ one. Okay. So SE, just refresh, and you'll have access to it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, in terms of the historical reasoning, let me just look really quick. Let me just try to find this document. There is a document that a teacher made that is like keywords to help you figure out which one it is. Let me just find it. And then the other question about if the LEQ, if it says to talk between the years 1800, 1850. No. So if the prompt says years, stay in the years. The only time you would go back is in context. Otherwise, Don't backtrack. Just stay in the years. What the heck was this called? It's called keywords. Okay. Damn. I'm gonna find this. This is actually good. It's a good document. It's just like, it's pretty much just like any word that is closely connected to the word effect. Any word that is closely connected to the word change. You know, change, transformed, adjusted. I don't know. Let me find this document for you though. Bill Strickland. It's a AP World document, but it is totally useful in terms of here. All right. This will take me a few minutes to find. I'll have to look back at it and then I can email it to you. But yeah, it's just about figuring out what the prompt is asking about. Just really think about the words, the word in it that like really just shows you this is what it wants. I hope that makes sense. I can't find it right now. All right, you guys. So I'm going to leave it there. It's getting late. It's time for you to go to bed. It's time for you to take a break. And with that said, good luck tomorrow. I'm going to send out a little survey tomorrow, so because I want to know how you guys feel, how you did, especially like how you think these live reviews have helped you, but you know, after the exam. But please reach out to me and let me know how it goes. Like as soon as you leave the test, you know, let me know. I felt great. And like I didn't feel great. I don't know. Let me know how you did. But I'll leave it there. Okay. So if anything else comes up, if you have any other questions, just shoot me an email tonight and I'll email back. But yeah, I know you can't bring your phone to school on that day, but you know, just let me know how it went. And I will update you guys on future Fiveable stuff in August. Well, I'll be in touch before then, but there'll be previews for any of the ones that we add, any classes that we have, especially like AP US Government will for sure be a class that I'll probably teach that if I don't have someone else do it, and other ones too. So good luck. Talk to you all later. All right. Go do something fun. Go take a break. Okay. Bye.